they were telling us about harmful chemicals in our bathroom that just blew our mind. And do you realize that after that evening of sharing stories, I did not use soap or shampoo on my body until those products arrived in our household. So, you know, that's what got us started with this company. And as you may know, that company's name was New Ways. And that company was started by the Mower family. And we absolutely loved the products. We loved the philosophy. And as a result, we built a very, very successful business. Now, let me fast forward to the 14th, was it, Peter? The 14th of April, 2025. That was a day that we thought was the worst day of our lives because we got a message on our screen when we went onto the website of Mower to place a new order, and it said, "Thank you for your service over the last 23 years." Like, what's that? It was 35 years that that company was in operation. Okay. But that's what it was. And we were devastated. But now we see it as the most wonderful blessing that anyone could have anticipated. Like, now we see it as a wonderful blessing that nobody could have anticipated because it has led us back to the original Mower mission. And we feel so at home here because what we fell in love with 27 years ago is what is still real today with Sisel. And it's just like some of you might relate to this, like you might have heard of the story of the prodigal son, right? Um, the prodigal son is the story of a young man who leaves his father's house because he thinks that he's got a better way of living. And what ends up happening is he goes off and he lives his life, and things happen in his life that he realizes that, you know what, my father's home was the best place. And so when we were looking for a new home after Mower closed its doors, the things that the number one thing for myself and Heather was that we could provide a home for our people that joined us in our first year of Mower. We could provide for our people a home that had that same mission that we actually signed up for 27 years ago. And so we looked at a number of different companies. In fact, Sisel was the last company that we looked at. It's hard to believe, but we looked at a number of these different companies, and each one of them that we looked at, the thing that shocked us was that I'll give you an example. So we're looking through the product list. We didn't worry about looking at the compensation plan because I know enough about compensation plans that if you build a solid, strong business, they're all going to pay you around about the same amount of money. However, what we were looking for is what our people were looking for, and that is products that have no harmful chemicals in them, that actually work extremely effective, and are nutrition products that are ahead of the future. Yeah. And so Heather is looking through the product list. I'm across the other side of the room, and Heather says, "Oh, this is an interesting company." I won't use any names because I'll be respectful. But She said, this is an interesting company. They've got two different types of toothpaste. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. The bell started ringing. And she said, yeah, one toothpaste has got no fluoride in it. Great. The other toothpaste has got fluoride in it. And it's like, I said, right, scratch that one off the list. And she says, why? And I said, well, if a company can't invest their time in educating people on why they shouldn't be using fluoride in their toothpaste, and they're just happy to provide whatever the customer can want, that's not for us. Because their philosophy is not to have the safest products available, and they're not interested in making sure that their people are taken care of in the best possible way. And Heather was like, yep, I get that. Fine. All right, next one. She went through the next one, straight to the dental care range. Same thing. Next one, same thing. And so then I'm talking with Pete and Murray France. We're on a Zoom call just like this. And we're discussing these different options, and we're looking at different possibilities. And we said to Pete and Murray France, it's like, you know what? I don't think that we're going to be able to go past that original mission that we actually signed up for in the beginning. To be honest, I hadn't looked deeply at the Sisel products. I hadn't looked at the compensation plan. So to be honest, I hadn't looked at the products at this point in time. I hadn't looked at the compensation plan. But what I knew is that Sisel was run by the Mower family. What attracted us 27 years ago, in fact, it was 25 and a half years ago now, was when Heather and I went to the first conference, the first New Ways convention. And we were there just by ourselves, and with Peter and Murray France and their group of people, and the Mower family came onto the stage, and we listened to that information, and we were absolutely blown away. What we were attracted to and by was the authenticity, the realness of these people, and the fact that they were happy to spend hours after the event has finished talking to the people and connecting with the people. And for a long time in this industry, for us, that had been missing. It had been missing. And so we jumped online and we had a look at some of the videos from Tom Mower Jr. And seriously, it just felt like coming home. Before we actually committed to getting started, we had the opportunity of sitting on a Zoom call like this with Tom and hearing him share some of his experiences and the stories of the last 20 years since we've been away from the Mower family. And I turned to Heather and I said, "Hun, this feels like coming home and pulling our chairs up to the table and sitting around the table with the family again. You know, it's just feels like being home, and it's just feels so good. And we've been welcomed that way, haven't we, Peter?" So why we got into the industry first and foremost was because we had learnt that you can't create financial independence unless you have passive residual income. And when we were actually learning this information, it was recommended that we actually look into either sales or network marketing. And at the time, I was already doing a little bit of sales in the industry that I was in, but I was shown this model where that you can actually develop organizations, develop teams of people to grow their own businesses, supporting them to grow their own businesses, And as a result, you get a percentage of that as well. And so I thought, like both Heather and I were looking at this together, and we thought this could be an industry for us. And at that time, the company that we were first shown was where we met Peter and Murray France. Now, we worked with that company for quite some time, and we learned a lot of things. And what we kept on hearing is there is 4 things that you must focus on achieving 100% belief with. And that is 100% belief in the industry. So you've got to learn about the values of the industry and the benefits of it. 2 was the company. Develop a clear understanding of the benefits of the company for you, like fall in love with it.